CALPADS Error Resolution CERT153, Missing Student Incident Result Record for Student. So the first step when resolving any error in CALPADS is always to consult the CALPADS error list. And we have a screenshot of the error list in front of you. After using tabs to navigate to the correct error using the error number and error name, the two columns on the left, we can then look at the error description. The third column from the left says student incident records must have at least one associated student incident result record. Basically, every student incident record has to be paired to a single incident result record at the very minimum, okay? It's quite possible that a student incident record has more than one result for a student, right? Students can be suspended and expelled for a single incident, right? But at least there must be one. If a student's involved in an incident that's reported to CALPADS, the result, even if it's other means of correction or no action taken, must be reported, okay? The fields validated tell you where a discrepancy may lie and how the student incident records, the SINC data, is paired with the student incident result or the CERS data. And so for every SINC record, there must be a corresponding CERS record with the school of attendance. You see school of attendance and both data sets, academic year, SSID, you see that there in both data sets, and incident local ID. That's how we know the same student in the same academic year at the same school is in a single incident, because the incident ID ties the result to the incident record. All right. Now CALPADS is kind enough to give us a suggested resolution. How should we go about resolving the fact that our student incident record is missing a results record? So understanding the error at the top of a suggested resolution usually tells us the conditions in which CALPADS expects the record to be submitted. A student has no student incident result record associated to a student incident record within the same academic year. So that's pretty well said in layman's terms, all right? So let's look at the note. SINC and CERS are associated by SSID, School of Attendance Incident Local ID. We went over that. At the very bottom, it says submit the appropriate student incident result record, right? So, you know, that's probably the most common solution. Perhaps you submitted a student incident record that didn't need to be submitted. So deleting the student incident could be a method of resolution as well. You have to know your student data. You have to know how your student information system works, and you have to know the expectations in CALPADS to resolve any error, right? So basically, you're going to have to get your hands muddied. You're going to have to get dirty. You're going to have to get in the weeds of the data and understand what's going on. All right. So we can always reference the CALPADS file specifications. That tells us the individual field definitions and requirements. It also tells us what's expected from the different record types. And so if we look at the CFS docs, DOCX, it's a Word document, not the Excel spreadsheet, and that's where it tells us what's expected from the record type, okay? And so if you go through the document, you find student incident result file format. It will tell you the LEA is required to submit all incident results associated with the single incident. The incident information may contain any of the following. For each incident, the LEA will submit one or more student incident result records, which include the SSID of the students involved for the incident. Okay, there you go. Pretty simple. It tells us for each incident, you should submit the student results record, which include the SSIDs of the students involved. So if you submit SINC records for 3 students, we would expect to see at least 3 incident results record, one for each student. Although in instances where multiple incident results occur for a student with a single incident, the LA will submit a separate student incident results record for each of the different results. So there you go again. A student is not limited to a single result. You should, in fact, submit all the results. So if a student is suspended and expelled, you should submit an incident record for each of those results, okay? So that's a good reference document. Another would be the code set. Perhaps you didn't submit a result because you didn't know it was information CALPADS was looking for. So not all the different results codes are featured here, right? There's more than just what you see in front of you, but this is what fits on the slide. And what you see is out of school suspension, in school suspension, expulsion. Those are very common. We've been submitting that for years. You also have other means of correction. This has a quite lengthy definition in the code set. We had to cut it off so it fit in the table, but it includes meetings with parents. It includes referrals, restorative justice, right? Other means of correction as opposed to traditional means like suspensions, expulsions, in-school suspensions, okay? There might be an incident where there was no action taken, right? There's a code for that. Then, of course, you had restraints and seclusions. You have arrest, and you have other incidents that are not featured here. And so understanding what CALPADS is looking for, what record should be submitted, helps you know which results to provide us with, right? And so let's demonstrate how one would go about resolving a CERT153 error. We'll show you a demonstration of a couple different scenarios and talk about how we would resolve each. Okay, so here we have a CERT153 error. Missing student incident results record for a student, right? And as always, we click show. This will reveal the records triggering the error down below. So we have the records that are triggering each of the CERT153 errors. Here are the students' records that are triggering. These are the SSIDs. These links will take us to the student detail screen. That doesn't help us, right? We can't make edits to student records on the student detail screen. So what we do have are the incident local IDs, and this will take us to the incident detail screen in which if there are edits to make, we can make them, right? And then here's the error message, CERT153, and the name. So what we need to do is always, once we've identified the error, we don't rely on the name. It's somewhat descriptive, missing student incident results record for student. However, we want to drag in our error list, right? And you can always get the error list from the footer in CALPADS, or you can go to the system documentation page. And here you can see the most updated version of the error list. You can download it, save it to your local copy. I want to show you in CALPADS, down here at the bottom, there's the error list. And if I go to a different screen, it's always in the footer, error list, okay? So it's always accessible to you. And so here's the error list, right? And it's a tab document, all the different categories of errors at the bottom. CERT153 is an end of year 3 error, so I cycled the tabs at the bottom to end of year 3. And then I'm going to filter by error number. And I have CERT153. And so here I have the error list before you, right? And this is how you troubleshoot every error, right? The error number and the error name were used for reference. We have the correct error description. So we're going to start here. And this third column from the left, student incident records must have at least one associated student incident results record, right? For every SINC record, for every incident record, we need a student result. We need a SIRS record. If a student's in an incident, we need a result. We need to know whether that student was suspended, expelled, if there was no action, if there was an incident that involved restraints and seclusion, if the student's offense resulted in only a referral, right? Other means of correction. So there's several different codes to populate for the result, okay? And so the field's validated. Basically, the school of attendance, the academic year, and the SSID identify the student's school, the student, and the year in which the incident occurred. The specific incident element is the incident local ID. For every SINC record, there must be a corresponding SIRS record at the same school of attendance with the same academic year. For the student, that means the SSID is corresponding, and then the incident local ID is telling CALPADS this incident resulted here, right? Or whatever punishment or discipline or what have you, the result of the incident, right? That's how you know this result record is tied to this incident for the student. Each student in an incident, if there's a SINC record, there must be one results record. Not limited to one. A student can have multiple results. As we know, students can receive suspensions and then be expelled, or perhaps a referral, then a suspension, whatever combination you have. But there's always something, even if there is no discipline associated with the incident, right? There's other means of correction. There's no action taken. There's different codes, right? But there has to be a results record. Suggested resolution. A student has no incident results record associated to the incident record within the same academic year, right? Pretty straightforward. I kind of elaborated on this already. Here's a note for us. SINC and CERS are associated by SSID, School of Attendance, and Incident Local ID. I explained that. Things to check in the submission. Check the values of the fields listed in the fields validated section. That's what we were describing here. Suggested resolution, submit the appropriate SINC record, right? Or submit the appropriate student incident result record for the SINC record. Perhaps a typo in this. Okay, so the error list gives us a description. It's technical. You have to know a little bit about CALPADS. More importantly, you have to know a lot about your student information system based on the limitations of CALPADS functionality, which we will demonstrate. Right, so we reference the error list, or we're going to look at an incident ID. I'm going to right click it, okay, and open in a new tab. I like to either open in a new window or a new tab so that I can come back as I work my my SSIDs. I identify which records and I go one by one down, open it up, do my examination, decide how I'm going to fix these errors in my student information system, and then I'm going to resubmit a CERS record. So let's look at a student, let's look at the incident details, right? And so we're going to blur some of this information out, right? You don't need to know the students' names, right? But you can see that this SSID here has a results record and a soft record, a student offense record that goes with the incident, okay? However, unfortunately, these students here, the second and the third one, they have incidents, but no results record. Every student with the incident record has to have a corresponding results record, and we know that it's corresponding because the incident ID would tie them together. So when you're submitting the data in your student information system, there will be a corresponding incident ID. It doesn't show us that they're corresponding because the incident ID is here for the entire incident. But what you can see also is this second and third student have the statutory offense indicator as a Y. So not only are they missing a results triggering a CERT153, they're missing a soft record, which I know is going to trigger a CERT155 because we've indicated they committed a statutory offense. And so this incident is triggering 2 certification errors, actually 4, 2 per student. There's 2 students with records that are not complete, okay? Now, this is the reason why you have to know how to use your student information system and know your student data. I do not know if the statutory offense indicator should be a Y or an N, right? I don't know what happened. I don't have that information, right? Perhaps this was populated erroneously, and if it's an N value, then you don't need a student offense. The question is, if it's an N value, why are we reporting the record, right? Is it an incident of restraint or seclusion? Typically, the records that we are reporting to CALPADS are student offenses outlined in the Ed Code, right? And if this is not language you're familiar with, please review the behavioral incidents data population or end of year 3 training, okay? Now, so either we can update the SINC record and we won't have to be required to submit a soft, but there's no way getting around it, right? If we're not deleting these 2 records, we have to populate a result, right? We have a 3-student incident and only 1 result for a single student. We have to say what happened to these students. If nothing happened, here, let's look at the incident code. If nothing happened, right, there's a multitude of codes. There's no action, right? If there was a physical restraint or mechanical restraint, there's 2 codes specific to it. There's seclusion code, right? Then you, of course, you have your regulars: out of school suspension, in school suspension, expulsion, other means of correction. That's parent-teacher meeting. That's referrals. Very. You can find these code definitions in the CALPADS code set. Okay. Basically, though, to resolve this CERT153 error, these 2 students missing results, they have incident records, they're missing results. You have to submit a file in CALPADS with a CERS file, a student incident results file, because CALPADS doesn't have an add a new student button. You see here, I can add a new student to this incident. I cannot do it here. The online functionality is not here. I can edit existing records, right? Since this student has an offense, I can add a secondary offense. But since the incident results and the student offenses are at the student level, I don't have an add a new student button. And so you have to submit a new file. You have to submit a CERS to resolve the CERT153. And because these 2 students also, because of the statutory offense indicator, required an offense, I'm sure that there's a CERT155, I believe, or CERT154. There's another corresponding error because they don't have an offense record, all right? So I don't know that they're all going to be the same. So let's look at another one. We'll just right click and open in a new tab. And again, we're at the incident detail screen. Okay, so it's another 3-student incident. This time, 2 students have results, right? Again, we're covering the name, but you can see that SSID here does not have a result. The student was involved in an incident, doesn't have a result. Both of these students have offenses, right? This student has a statutory offense indicator to Y, so we'd expect to see a result for this student and an offense. So what you need to do is go into your student information system, identify this ID, or you can work backwards. You could identify this student, and then if the student may have been in multiple incidents during the year, find the incident ID and identify why the result is not reported and why the offense is not reported. You may have to make changes to data in your student information system, but what you're eventually going to do is extract a new CERS record for the student and possibly a new student offense record, right? You don't need to submit the incident again, just the CERS and the SOF to resolve these errors. All right, and so hopefully that gives you an indication of how to resolve these errors. I don't know, we'll look at one last one real quickly, see if there's any variation, but they're pretty straightforward, right? We're missing data. The only way to get that data because of our functionality limitations in CALPADS is to submit new files. If you have a small number of certification errors, you can choose to delete the incident and start over, right? You can build an incident from scratch using online maintenance, and you could delete all this data and then rebuild the incident, right? That is something that you can do. You don't have to delete all the data, right? So, okay, here's a variation. So this is a good example of another option. I have a 3-student incident, right? I have a single student with a results record. So this student here has a results record, okay? And because none of the students have committed a statutory offense, the indicators are in, I'm not required any offense records, right? So I can demonstrate how to resolve this, right? You could choose to identify these students, right? You delete this record, right? No more sync record for the student. Delete the record. There's going to be no more seat records for the student. These two records will be deleted, and now it would look like a single student incident, right? Then at that point, you can click add a new student, and you populate the information for the student. I have to delete their records first, otherwise it will be a duplicate information. If a student did commit a statutory offense, CALPADS requires it before I can validate. If not, only the incident result and the student sync record are required, okay? So that's a way you can correct a CERT153 using online maintenance. You can delete the existing sync records from CALPADS, click add a new student, create a new sync and CERS in the module. Of course, you have to reference your student information system so you have all the details about the student and the incident, and populate. So that's one way you can do that, okay? But if you have several, it's easiest to make the corrections in your student information system and submit the file. So hopefully we'll get a quick turnaround on this, and it will be useful for you in the final weeks of the end of year 3 certification.